They held a vote. 214 species from across the known galaxy sat in that enormous chamber, with its floating seats and holographic displays, and every single one of them voted yes. Yes to enslaving Earth. Yes to stripping our oceans. Yes to putting chains on 8 billion people and calling it progress. Not one voted no. Not one abstained. Not one even hesitated. My name is Arjun Malhotra. I was a commander in the Indian Navy when the aliens first made contact, and I am the man standing at this podium today, in this same chamber, looking out at those same 214 species. Except now they are not voting. Now they are kneeling. Now every transmission on every frequency across the galaxy carries the same message from their governments. Please stop. We surrender. Have mercy. I want to tell you how we got here. 3 years ago, humanity did not even know the Galactic Concord existed. We were busy with our own problems. Wars, politics, climate change, arguments about things that seem very small now. Then their ships appeared in our sky, not to greet us, but to study us, the way a farmer studies livestock before auction. They scanned our cities, cataloged our resources, and filed a report that I have since read in full. It described Earth as a mineral-rich world, populated by a fractured, pre-ascendant species, suitable for labor extraction. We were not people to them. We were inventory. The Veltari Dominion proposed the vote. They were an ancient reptilian empire, millions of years old, and they wanted our oceans for their chemical processing plants. The Kryn Collective, a massive insectoid hive mind civilization, wanted human workers for their mega construction projects across the galaxy. They said we were the right size and had useful hands. Even the Sarathi, a tall and graceful telepathic species who considered themselves the moral leaders of the galaxy, voted yes. They called it guided uplift. They said enslaving us was for our own good. I remember the night we intercepted and decoded the broadcast of that vote. I was in a military intelligence room in New Delhi with 30 other officers, and we watched it on a flickering screen. When the final count came up, 214 to 0, nobody spoke. A woman next to me, a colonel who had served in 3 combat zones, quietly put her head in her hands. I stared at the screen and felt something cold settle into my chest. Not fear. Something deeper and heavier than fear. It was the realization that the entire galaxy looked at us and saw nothing worth protecting. That feeling lasted about 6 hours. Then it turned into something else entirely. Within 2 weeks, every government on Earth dissolved its independent military command and reformed under a single banner, the Earth Unified Command. I have studied human history my entire adult life, and nothing in it compares to how fast we unified. Nations that had been pointing weapons at each other for decades were suddenly sharing intelligence, technology, and soldiers without a single negotiation. It turns out the fastest way to make humanity agree on something is to give us a common enemy. I was transferred to Resistance Division. Our job was simple on paper and insane in practice. Make Earth impossible to govern. The Concord fleet arrived 6 weeks later. 40,000 ships darkened the sky. Their orbital bombardment wiped out our military bases, our satellite networks, and most of our naval fleets within 72 hours. Our fighter jets, our tanks, our aircraft carriers, all of it turned to burning scrap in less than 3 days. Alien ground troops landed in every major city. They set up occupation zones, processing centers, and labor assignment stations. They announced our new official designation, Bonded Labor Species number 5716. For 1 week, it looked like it was over. Then we started fighting. The Concord had never encountered an insurgency before. I need you to understand how important that fact is. In the entire history of the galaxy, no species had ever continued to resist after losing space superiority. Every war in their records followed the same pattern. One fleet destroys the other. The losing side surrenders. Territories are reassigned. Life goes on. The idea that a species would keep fighting from the ground, from the shadows, from burned-out buildings and flooded tunnels, after their military was completely destroyed, that concept did not exist in their thinking. They had no doctrine for it, no training, no playbook. We had 10,000 years of playbooks. Our resistance was not one army. It was a million small fires burning everywhere at once. In the mountains of Afghanistan, Fighters who had been perfecting guerrilla warfare for generations turned their skills against 7-foot alien soldiers who did not know what an ambush was. In the cities of Europe, underground networks ran sabotage operations with a precision that would have made the French resistance proud. In sub-Saharan Africa, engineers built electromagnetic pulse devices from captured alien components, using instructions distributed through hand-carried memory cards. A 17-year-old girl in Lagos figured out how to jam Veltari communications using modified wireless routers, and within a month, her method had spread to every continent. The aliens had better weapons, better armor, better ships, better everything. But they had never fought anyone like us. Humans sent to labor camps became our greatest weapon. They worked, they cooperated, they smiled and followed orders, and every single day, they sabotaged something. A wire crossed here, a chemical ratio altered there, a structural support weakened just enough to fail 6 months later. The alien infrastructure built with human labor began collapsing in slow, cascading, untraceable ways. The Kryn lost an entire orbital station because a human welder had quietly adjusted the alloy composition of 11,000 joints over the course of 4 months. He was already dead by the time it fell apart. He knew he would be. He did it anyway. The Ul-Sarathi, the telepathic species, tried to use their abilities to interrogate captured resistance fighters. What they discovered terrified them. Humans can think one thing and say another. We can hold contradictory beliefs, bury memories, create false narratives in our own minds, and partition our thoughts so deeply that even a telepath cannot find the truth. The Ul-Sarathi called this ability cognitive contamination. Within 3 months, they pulled every single one of their telepaths out of interrogation duty. They said prolonged contact with human minds was psychologically damaging to their people. One of their senior telepaths reportedly said that looking into a human mind was like opening a door and finding an ocean where a room should be. Then there was the biology. Earth is one of the most hostile biospheres in the known galaxy, and we did not even know it. Our common bacteria, the stuff that lives in our soil and water and skin, was lethal to nearly every alien species. A Kryn battalion was wiped out by influenza. Regular influenza, the kind our children get over in a week. Alien soldiers started dying from fungal infections, pollen allergies, insect bites, and waterborne parasites that our immune systems handle without us even noticing. The planet itself was fighting on our side. They kept trying to find our command structure. They kept asking to speak to our leader. We told them we had 8 billion. 6 months into the occupation, the Concord started losing money. The resources they came to steal were being sabotaged faster than they could be extracted. Their casualty reports were growing. Species that had committed troops to the occupation started demanding to know when it would become profitable. The answer was never, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. By the 9th month, something extraordinary happened. Other enslaved species across the galaxy, civilizations that had been in chains for centuries, started hearing about Earth. They heard that a small, primitive, unaugmented species on a little blue world was fighting back against the entire Concord and winning. The concept of resistance after defeat spread across the galaxy like a fire in dry grass. The Dren, a small and quiet mammalian species who had voted yes out of pure fear, were the first to rebel on their own world. They later told us that a Dren child heard a smuggled recording of a human resistance broadcast and asked her mother a question that had never been asked in Dren history. Why do we not fight? In the 12th month, we cracked faster than light travel. A team that included physicists from MIT, engineers from the Indian Institutes of Technology, researchers from CERN, and a self-taught mechanic from Sao Paulo who had been taking apart captured alien engines in her garage, built humanity's first FTL drive. It was ugly. It was bolted together from scrap metal and stolen Veltari engine components. Half the scientists involved said it should not work according to their understanding of physics. It worked. 2 months later we used it. A human strike fleet, converted cargo ships fitted with our crude FTL drives, and armed with nuclear-tipped kinetic projectiles, jumped across the galaxy and destroyed the Veltari's primary military shipyard. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. A Tier 0 species, the lowest classification in the galactic hierarchy, a species that was not even supposed to have space travel, had just executed a faster-than-light military strike against one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The official Concord reclassification of humanity after that attack was immediate existential concern. I had it framed and hung on my wall. After that, the Concord began to crack apart. The Kryn withdrew from Earth first. Their hive queens ran the numbers and concluded that the occupation would never be profitable. The Ulsarathi issued a formal apology and pulled their forces out, claiming they had been misled by the Veltari. They had not been misled. They had simply lost, and they wanted to pretend they had been on the wrong side by accident rather than by choice. Humanity pressed forward. We did not stop at liberating Earth. We started freeing others. Our ships, still crude and ugly compared to the elegant alien vessels, jumped from system to system and broke chains that had been locked for 1,000 years. The Dren were the first species we freed. When our soldiers landed on their world, the Dren did not run. They walked toward us with their small hands open and tears running down their flat, gentle faces, and they said a word that did not exist in their language until a human broadcast taught it to them. The word was free. Within 2.5 years, the Veltari Dominion, the ancient empire that had proposed our enslavement, faced a human fleet in orbit above their homeworld. They did not fire. For the first time in their 60,000-year history, the Veltari surrendered. So here I stand, in the Grand Chamber, at the podium. The Concord has formally dissolved. In its place, we have proposed a new charter, one that Earth wrote. We call it the Galactic Compact of Sovereign Species. Its first and most important law is simple. No species may be enslaved, harvested, or subjugated. Ever, under any justification, for any reason. Violations will be met with force. Humanity will enforce it. The delegates are not begging me to spare them from conquest. We have not conquered anyone. We did not take their worlds. We did not enslave their people. We did not do to them what they did to us, because that was never who we were. They are begging because every species they ever enslaved is now awake. Rebellions are burning across 100 worlds, and the old masters are terrified of what comes next. The Veltari delegate, the same one whose predecessor proposed our enslavement, approaches the podium and formally requests humanity's protection from his own former slaves. I look at him for a long time before I speak. You held a vote, I say. 214-0. You looked at a small blue world, full of people who had never left their own solar system, and you saw resources. You saw labor. You saw cattle. You did not see what we see when we look at each other. A species that has crawled out of every hell it has ever built for itself, and come out stronger every single time. I lean forward. So here is what happens now. You do not get mercy. You get something harder to live with. You get fairness. The same laws apply to you that apply to everyone else. The same rights. The same consequences. You will be treated exactly the way you treated others. No, actually, better. Because that is the difference between us and you. I step back from the podium. We do not enslave, we do not exterminate, we remember, and we make very sure it never happens again. The chamber is silent. On the screen behind me, a live feed shows Earth, scarred, battered, and free. Next to it, a second feed shows a Dren child on a liberated world, looking up at an open sky for the first time in her species' recorded history. She is smiling. They voted to enslave us, every last one of them. 214 species looked at humanity and saw something small and weak and easy to break. They were right about the small part. They were even right that we are easy to break. But here is the thing about humans that no species in this galaxy understood until it was far too late. We do not stay broken.